Futaro is a genius but broke loser who lands a job as tutor of some wealthy dummies. However, when he discovers that he will be teaching 5 hot busty quintuplets, he tries to do his job but they just ditch the homework and start rizzing him in hopes to get freaky with him. On the day they met, Futaro was grabbing lunch in the cafeteria, choosing the cheapest meal set he could find, fully aware of how tight his budget is. As he walks toward his usual spot, people quietly gossip about how he's always alone and has no friends. But when he reaches his seat, to everyone's shock, the new red-haired student, Itsuki, is already there. Whispers spread through the cafeteria about how rare that someone to sit with him. Futaro is annoyed by the attention, but one glance at her tray, stacked high with expensive food, and Futaro instantly calculates the cost in his head, realizing that she's clearly from money. As they eat, Futaro multitasks, reviewing his notes while finishing his meal. The girl seems irritated, assuming he's rude until she glimpses his perfect test score. Her expression shifts instantly, and she asks him for help with studying. His pride gets in the way, and he walks off after finishing his meal. She tries offering him food, but when he bluntly comments on her eating like a fatty, she storms away, vowing never to speak to him again. Futaro doesn't care until he receives a message from his little sister Raiha, asking him to call. Futaro learns that their father has found him a lucrative tutoring job, 5 times the normal rate, teaching a wealthy transfer student who has just moved nearby. Skeptical, Futaro hesitates, but Raiha's excitement about finally eating proper meals pushes him to accept. But Futaro learns from Raiha that the girl he's supposed to tutor is a new student named Itsuki, the same chick he insulted. He decides that he needs to make amends with her, but when he approaches her table, Itsuki is already sitting with 4 other girls and coldly tells him to go slip in the shower after he insulted her. One of her friends, Ichika, steps in and teases him, asking why he's simping for Itsuki. When Futaro denies it, Ichika tries to call Itsuki over for him, but he quickly stops her, insisting that he doesn't need her help. His confidence unexpectedly impresses Ichika, who smirks and tells him he's manly, even adding that he can always come to her for advice if he ever needs guidance on winning Itsuki over. Just as Futaro is about to eat, another one of Itsuki's friends, Yotsuba, surprises him by staring right into his soul. She holds up 2 exam papers, one scored a 0, the other a perfect 100, and asks him which one is his. Confused, Futaro asks how she even got them, and Yotsuba reveals that he accidentally dropped them earlier. When he points to the paper with the perfect score, she casually hands both back to him, confusing him further. He asks who scored the 0, only for Yotsuba to proudly admit that it's her test. From that moment on, Yotsuba starts following him everywhere, even into the changing room. When he finally asks why, she says it's because he hasn't thanked her for returning his exam. Futaro, tired of her persistence, hands her 0-marked paper back and says they're even now, but Yotsuba, misunderstanding entirely, thanks him anyway. Later, Futaro spots Itsuki leaving and decides to follow her, hoping to talk things out, but he tries to stay hidden so her friends don't notice. But one of them, Miku, catches him and asks what he's doing. Futaro jokingly says he's stalking Itsuki, but Miku threatens to call the police if he doesn't explain himself. Futaro begs her not to tell Itsuki what she saw, and to his confusion, Miku casually walks away, saying Itsuki isn't her friend anyway. When Futaro finally reaches Itsuki's place, another friend, Nino, confronts him aggressively, calling him a stalker and threatening to send him to a Kobe game. Futaro quickly lies and says that he actually lives there, which immediately makes Nino apologize. But suddenly Miku chimes in, pointing out how he always orders the cheapest food in the cafeteria, implying that he's broke, and with his cover blown, Futaro dashes inside. Inside, he spots Itsuki stepping into an elevator, but before he can reach her, the doors close. So Futaro sprints up the stairs to catch her and finally confronts her. Itsuki, however, pushes him away, saying she doesn't have time to deal with him because she has a tutor coming over. To her shock, Futaro reveals that he is the tutor. Itsuki immediately refuses to accept him, but Futaro doesn't back down. He corners her and apologizes for insulting her, declaring that he intends to fulfill his role as her tutor no matter what. Suddenly, the elevator doors open again, and all 4 of Itsuki's friends step out together. To Futaro's shock, Itsuki finally reveals the truth that the 5 of them are sisters, and he won't just be tutoring her, he'll be tutoring all of them. Futaro eventually gets inside their apartment and tries to introduce himself properly as their tutor, but chaos erupts instantly. Only Yotsuba shows interest in studying and she drags him around to invite the others, but Itsuki and Miku both refuse, giving the exact same cold rejection, and Nino disappears into the kitchen. Then they make their way to Ichika's room, but before entering, Yotsuba quietly warns Futaro to prepare himself. When they step inside, they're met with a messy room and no sign of Ichika at first, but after turning on the light, they notice Ichika hiding beneath the blanket. Futaro tries to pull her up, but she suddenly stops him and casually reveals that she isn't wearing anything underneath. That makes Futaro freeze on the spot, so he quickly backs out of the room to compose himself. Stepping into the hallway, he finds Miku waiting there with a serious expression. She claims that her red sweatshirt has gone missing and accuses Futaro of stealing it to sniff on later. But then Miku glances downstairs and spots Nino in the kitchen, happily baking cookies while wearing Miku's missing sweatshirt. Then Nino returns with cookies, gathering everyone into the living room. But instead of order, chaos reigns. Nino and Miku argue over a missing jacket. Ichika yawns lazily. Itsuki refuses to participate, and Yotsuba doodles instead of studying. Futaro reaches his breaking point, but just as he starts lecturing them, Nino offers him cookies and tea. As he takes a sip, she leans close and whispers that they don't need a tutor. And moments later, he collapses after being drugged. He wakes up in a cab with Itsuki beside him, escorting him home. She warns him to quit while he can, but he refuses. Back at his house, Raiha greets them warmly, thrilled to meet her brother's student, and invites Itsuki to dinner. Over curry and egg rolls, Raiha innocently asks if tutoring is going well. Futaro lies to keep her hopeful, whispering to Itsuki not to expose the truth. Raiha beams with pride, believing this job will help pay off their debts. All the while, Itsuki watches quietly, slightly moved. As Futaro walks her out, she admits she understands his situation but still refuses his help, insisting she'll study on her own, and that if he wants to tutor them, she won't stop him, but he'll have to convince the others himself. Futaro accepts the challenge, and sets his goal to make all 5 Nakano sisters pass their exams with at least an average score. The next day, Futaro shows up at Itsuki's place again, shocking the girls. They can't believe he's still trying, and Nino immediately repeats that they don't need a tutor. Futaro proposes a challenge that he'll give them a test, and if they score above 50 points, he'll leave them alone for good. Confident, Nino already celebrates their win. But after they take the test, Futaro grades the papers, and not a single one even reaches 40. The sisters scatter, avoiding him completely. The following morning, Futaro spots them arriving in an expensive car, only for them to bolt the moment they see him. He tries to stop them, but Miku comments that he probably already has study materials ready. Itsuki adds that they know what they're lacking but want to figure it out their own way. Futaro agrees to let them try, but as soon as he throws them an easy history question from the previous day's test, Itsuki freezes, and none of them can answer. But at lunch, Futaro approaches Miku, remembering she had actually answered that question correctly before. Trying to be friendly, he asks what she's eating, and notices her strange drink, matcha soda. When he says he might try it, she shoots him down, refusing to let his lips touch her drink. Ignoring the jab, he asks why she didn't speak up about the history question earlier. Miku is caught off guard, but before she can respond, Yotsuba bounces in, apologizing for avoiding him earlier, and proudly showing another test, scored at 0 in English. Ichika quickly pulls her away, but Yotsuba wonders why Ichika doesn't ask Futaro for help. Ichika shrugs, as she's already given up on studying. That remark lights a fire in Futaro. Coldly, he tells them love is pointless if they're just setting themselves up for failure, and the sisters are stunned by how hopelessly blunt he is. Yotsuba admits she has no one in mind romantically, and teases Miku instead, which makes Miku visibly flustered. As sisters, Yotsuba and Ichika immediately recognize that Miku might actually like someone. Later, Futaro can't stop thinking about Miku and how she'll be even more distracted from studying if in love. Then a folded note appears under his desk, an invitation to meet on the rooftop from Miku. He's shocked, thinking it's a confession, and wonders why she'd choose him of all people. Later, he finds himself waiting on the roof, and Miku steps out. But instead of confessing, she says she wanted to answer his earlier question in private so her sisters wouldn't know, and she says the current answer. It takes him a moment, but he realizes she's talking about the history test, not the love confession. As she turns to leave, Futaro stops her, causing her to drop her phone. The wallpaper shows an image of a Sengoku-era commander, which embarrasses her so much she turns bright red. She admits she's obsessed with historical military leaders, something she hides because she thinks it's weird. But Futaro sees an opportunity, and he reveals he scored perfectly on the history exam. Miku perks up and Futaro offers to teach her things she doesn't know. However, Miku takes it as a challenge, firing question after question at him. By pure luck, Futaro manages to answer them, convincing her that he's as passionate about history as she is. Before leaving, Futaro cleverly baits her into joining his tutoring sessions by promising to focus on Japanese history next time. Unable to resist, Miku agrees, giving Futaro his first win. On the way home, they pass a vending machine where Miku buys him a matcha soda, saying she remembers he wanted to try it, and joking that she didn't put snot in this one. Confused, Futaro asks about the snot, which instantly triggers Miku. She accuses him of being all talk and storms off, claiming she has nothing to learn from him. That stings his pride. So Futaro checks out stacks of history books from the library. After 2 days of cramming, he challenges Miku again, this time to prove who's smarter. She accepts but runs off after throwing him a philosophical question. So he chases only to trip and land on what he thinks are Yotsuba's soft 2 assets, but it turns out to be Miku wearing Yotsuba's ribbon as a disguise. They dash around the school with Miku quizzing Futaro about Sengoku history and phrases, until they're both out of breath. Overheated, Miku takes off her stockings, revealing her smooth legs, flustering Futaro. To return the favor from earlier, he buys her a matcha soda, this time clarifying there's no snot in it, and proving he knows the general snot story after reading up on ancient generals. He asks why she hides her talent for history from her sisters, and Miku says she's lame for liking history, but Futaro tells her she's actually the smartest. Miku still doesn't want to believe it, but after this chase with Futaro, she thinks that if she can excel in one subject, maybe her sisters can too, as they're all the same. That logic makes Futaro more determined than ever to get them all to pass the final exam. He uses Miku's own words to encourage her, and even shows the record answers from the first test he gave. They all share patterns, and they have one specific subject they all can't solve, proving that Miku was right. If she can do it, so can the others. The next day in the library, only Yotsuba shows up at first, and Futaro's close to losing hope, until Miku walks in. She tells him he's convinced her, and now it's his responsibility to teach her. Futaro accepts it as his greatest challenge yet. Seeing her rare bright smile, Yotsuba walks toward Miku and whispers, asking if the guy she likes is Futaro. Miku is genuinely surprised but denies it. The next day, when Futaro tries to enter the girl's apartment, he thinks the door is broken because it won't open. Turns out, he just isn't used to automatic doors. Miku finds him and explains that the door can only be opened with the resident's keys. She then lets him in, and Futaro goes inside and starts waking them up one by one. Itsuki still wants to study on her own. Yotsuba happily agrees to join. Nino just glares like a cat and slams the door shut, and Ichika is still asleep while Yotsuba tries to pick out clothes for her. While digging through Ichika's stuff, Yotsuba finds some lingerie. Ichika teases her to try it on and throw away her old underwear from years ago. Flustered, Yotsuba shushes her quickly, as Futaro is right there. But then she jokingly asks him if she looks good in the black lingerie. He doesn't even react and just tells them to hurry to the living room, which annoys Yotsuba. Then Futaro manages to get everyone but Nino to sit down and study, even though most of them aren't interested. But he thinks it's still progress compared to when he first started tutoring them. Just then, from the second floor, Nino appears and mocks him for being stubborn enough to come back. He invites her to join the session, but she coldly rejects him. He chooses to focus on the other four, but just as he's about to start the lesson, Nino mentions that the basketball club needs a substitute, which forces Yotsuba to join and leave Futaro's study session. Nino then reminds Ichika about her job at 2 o'clock, pushing her to leave. Next, she tells Ichuki that the library is a better place to study, also getting her to leave. That leaves only Miku, and Futaro realizes Nino has planned this. But when Nino turns her attention to Miku, she's stunned to see her staying put. And no matter what Nino says, Miku refuses to leave and chooses to keep studying Japanese history under Futaro. She tries to stir up trouble, accusing Miku of liking someone as ugly as him, but Miku shoots her down, claiming she's body shaming. That sparks Nino's temper, and she argues that looks aren't just about inner beauty, and accuses Miku of wanting validation because she never thinks about her own appearance. Miku fires back, saying Nino's long nails aren't fashionable at all. Futaro is about to step in when his stomach suddenly growls. Nino sees a chance and challenges Miku, saying that whoever makes the better dish for Futaro wins, and if Nino wins, Miku isn't allowed to study that day. Futaro wants no part of it, but Miku tells him to wait, confident that she'll win easily. But moments later they finish, and Nino's dish looks appetizing, while Miku's looks like a mess. Nino is confident that she got the W in the bag, but to her shock, Futaro says both taste good, not knowing that his palate is used to broke people's food. Nino is ready to argue, but when she sees Miku's happy expression, she stops and storms off, still unable to accept it. They don't end up studying at all, and Futaro notices Nino is the only one who truly hates him this much, but Miku tells him he's wrong, and says that Nino will come around, and it's his job to figure out how to approach her. He goes home with no progress, still thinking about how to deal with Nino, until he realizes he's left his notebook at their apartment. He calls, and Miku lets him in before heading off to take a bath. When he enters, he finds Nino in the living room, wrapped only in a towel. But because Nino isn't wearing her contact lenses, she mistakes Futaro for Miku, and casually asks him to hand her the lenses. Panicking, Futaro scrambles to find them before she realizes who he really is. Suddenly, Nino goes to help and leans against his back, which sends Futaro into a flustered mess. Before he can escape, he overhears Nino muttering that the sisters don't need Futaro, and that their home belongs to them alone. She vents her frustration but accidentally hits the shelf, knocking books down. Futaro pushes her out of the way before they fall, but ends up falling on top of her. In that moment, Nino thinks Futaro is a freaky intruder. He says he just came for his notebook, but she doesn't believe him and calls him a creep. Suddenly, Itsuki walks in and takes a picture for proof. Later, Futaro faces the sisters, and Nino claims he plotted to peek on her and wants this to get him banned as their tutor. Futaro explains he only came for his notebook, and Miku backs him up saying she let him in before going to bathe. Nino gets angry at Miku for defending him, accusing her of liking him, but Miku denies it. The two start fighting again, even scolding Itsuki when she tries to separate them. Then, Ichika and Itsuki look at the photo again. They notice the scattered books and realize his position looks like he's protecting her, which Futaro confirms. Nino is still upset because no one is on her side, but Miku and Ichika tell her there's no need to be that mad. Futaro also apologizes for his reckless action, but Nino runs off instead of accepting it. Futaro goes after her and finds Nino sitting alone outside, almost crying. When she sees him, she runs back to the door, only to find it locked, and she's forgotten her key. She pushes him away and crouches in the corner, but Futaro sits next to her, saying there's still a problem he can't solve, and going home isn't the answer. Nino says she hates him and everyone else, but Futaro turns it on her, asking if that includes her sisters. He recalls when she said that the house only belongs to them, and he realizes it isn't just about hating him, but it's about her loving her sisters and wanting to protect them from strangers. Just when Futaro thinks he's finally making progress, Nino's pride kicks in again. She agrees with him, but becomes even more determined never to accept him, even if her sisters like him. Then Miku comes out to get Nino, but Nino pulls her inside before she can speak to him, leaving Futaro wondering how he'll ever do his job after this. The next day, Futaro spends his weekend happily buried in his favorite activity, studying. For once, he feels relieved that he doesn't have to deal with tutoring, yet his thoughts keep wandering back to the five sisters. Just as he tries to focus, there's a knock on his door. To his surprise, it's Itsuki. Instinctively, he shuts the door in her face, which immediately annoys her. After coming inside, Itsuki hands him an envelope, explaining that their father asked her to give him his payment. When Futaro and Raiha see the amount, they're both shocked at how much he's earned. Futaro tries to refuse, saying he hasn't really accomplished anything yet, but Uchik says that his presence has already changed the sisters for the better. Hearing that, Futaro accepts the money, planning to use it to pay off the loans. Wanting to celebrate, he asks Raiha if there's something she wants, and she excitedly says she wants to visit the arcade. She also begs Uchiki to join them, and since Raiha's cuteness is impossible to resist, Uchiki agrees. Futaro isn't thrilled about her tagging along, but for Raiha's sake, he plays nice and spends the day at the arcade with both of them. Seeing Raiha so happy warms Utsuki's heart, and Futaro tells her that because of their family situation, Raiha hasn't had an easy life, but he's determined to make her wishes come true. Raiha suddenly asks the three of them to take a picture together. Futaro tries to escape, but Itsuki reminds him of his promise to make Raiha happy. They end up taking the photo, and Raiha beams with joy, while Futaro and Itsuki look like parents who hate each other. Later, Futaro remembers Itsuki's unfinished homework, and he brings it up. She tries to sneak away, but he chases after her, right as Raiha spots the other four sisters nearby. Seeing Itsuki with Futaro surprises them, making it look like the two are on a date. Before the teasing can start, Yotsuba notices Raiha and recognizes her immediately. Delighted, she invites Raiha to join them later to watch the fireworks. Raiha begs Futaro for permission, and he agrees, on the condition that the sisters finish their homework first. That night, after finishing their homework, they head to the fireworks festival together. The sisters are excited, while Futaro struggles to understand why they find such an event so thrilling. Just then, Itsuki arrives in a beautiful yukata. When Futaro stares a little too long, she snaps at him to take his eyes off her. Ichika and Miku appear, and Ichika teases Futaro, jokingly offering to show him what's underneath her yukata. Her sisters scold her immediately, and Ichika laughs it off as a joke. Suddenly, Ichika gets a call from her workplace and learns she has to work that night. Meanwhile, Raiha shows up with Yotsuba, holding several fish Yotsuba caught as gifts. Futaro scolds her, but Yotsuba explains she couldn't resist giving Raiha something special. Raiha also reveals that Yotsuba bought her fireworks, so Futaro reminds her to thank Yotsuba properly. Raiha hugs her tightly, saying she loves her, which makes Yotsuba so happy that she starts daydreaming about marrying Futaro to be Raiha's sister. But Nino instantly stops her thought. Nino warns Futaro not to make any moves on Yotsuba, startling him so much that he accidentally bumps into Miku's chest. Embarrassed, Miku reassures him she's fine. Afterward, they all stroll through the festival, trying out food stalls and minigames. Futaro still doesn't get why the sisters care so much about the fireworks until Miku explains that their late mother used to take them to watch the show every year. After her death, the sisters kept the tradition alive, making it an important memory for them. As the crowd grows, Nino gets separated from everyone. Just as she's about to lose them completely, Futaro catches her hand and tells her to hold on. Nino pretends not to care, saying he still isn't invited to their special viewing spot, but he tells her all that matters is that the sisters watch the fireworks together. Hearing this, Nino softens and leads him to a rooftop she rented, thinking the others are already there, but when they arrive, the place is empty. Nino suddenly remembers she never told anyone else about the location, and the two start blaming each other as precious time ticks away. Just then, Yotsuba calls, confirming Raiha is safe, easing Futaro's worries. Soon after, Futaro spots Ichika alone in the crowd, and remembering Miku's story decides to gather everyone so they can all watch together. But when he reaches Ichika, a random guy steps in and asks Futaro about his relationship with her.
What?
The question catches him off guard, and before he can respond, Ichika disappears with the stranger, making Futaro worried about what she might be hiding. Just then, Miku appears, and he's relieved to find her. He tries to bring her back to Nino but notices she's limping. Without hesitation, he carries her on his back and asks if she can spot Ichika in the crowd. When she says no, he sets her down, joking that she's too heavy, completely unaware that he just called her a fat pig. After bandaging her foot, he mentions seeing Ichika with a suspicious man, and Miku recalls seeing the same person before. Surprised by how much Futaro cares, Miku listens as he explains that watching them work so hard on their homework showed him just how much the fireworks mean to them. When he reaches his hand out to her, she happily accepts it, until a group of festival staff approach, assuming they're a couple based on how they're holding hands. Miku insists they're just friends, but Futaro bluntly says they're only acquaintances, leaving her disappointed. At that moment, they spot Itsuki in the crowd. Futaro quickly approaches her before she gets lost again, but she looks disappointed to see him. As they walk back toward Miku, Futaro awkwardly asks Itsuki what she considers their relationship, only for her to reply coldly that they're strangers at best. Futaro is taken aback until she adds that he already knows the answer, making him realize she actually sees him as a friend. Before he can process this, Ichika suddenly appears, grabs Futaro, and drags him into an alley. She warns him to keep quiet about seeing her with the mustached man, and confesses that she won't be able to watch the fireworks with her sisters this year. When Futaro tries to stop her, Ichika asks why he wants the sisters to watch fireworks together. Just then, the mustache guy shows up, and Ichika quickly hugs Futaro in the alley to avoid being seen. But the mustache guy decides to sit nearby, forcing them to keep acting romantic. The hug makes both of them fold, and Ichika jokes that people might think they're a couple, though they're only friends. But Futaro tells her he's nothing but their tutor, and that being a friend is too much. The words sting Ichika, and when she voices her hurt, Futaro realizes Miku must have felt the same when he didn't acknowledge her as a friend. Suddenly, the man's phone rings. He apologizes, explaining he won't interfere during filming. Ichika reveals he's her manager, and she's been working as his assistant all along. Futaro warns her that this could distract her from studying, putting her college plans at risk. She flips the question and asks why he studies so much, but he freezes, recalling the girl who made him study hard. Suddenly, the manager mistakes Miku for Ichika because of her new hairstyle and chases her down. As they run, Futaro reflects on what his relationship with the sisters truly is. When he finally understands, he grabs Miku's hand and declares to the manager that he's their partner and wants them back. Confused by Futaro's determination, the guy claims Ichika is his actress and needs to attend an important audition. At that moment, both men are shocked, as the manager sees two Ichikas, and Futaro learns for the first time that Ichika is an actress. The mustache guy pulls Ichika away, reminding her of the audition. Futaro tries to stop her, but Ichika apologizes, asking him to tell the others she'll miss the fireworks. Miku tells Futaro to follow, promising she'll be fine, but Yotsuba and Raiha arrive on cue to look after Miku, giving Futaro the chance to run after Ichika. Futaro catches up to Ichika as she waits for the car, and he asks again if she really wants to leave her sisters now. She counters and asks why he goes so far for them if he only sees himself as a tutor. Futaro answers that they are partners who support each other, so Ichika then shows him a script and asks him to play the teacher role for her to support her. As they act, the performance brings him to tears, proving how powerful her acting is. Then the manager returns to fetch her. Ichika prepares to leave immediately, but Futaro calls her back, criticizing her fake smile and admits he is frustrated that she always hides her true feelings behind smiles. He vents about his family problems and the pressures that forced him into tutoring, feeling guilty that he cannot do more for the sisters. Ichika explains that she kept her acting secret because she wanted to stand tall as the eldest among her sisters and only reveal it once she succeeded. She adds that failing this opportunity would make it impossible to face them again. As she departs, he promises to join her later when she apologizes to her sisters. When she finally arrives late at the audition, his words echo in her mind. She performs with a smile born from her love for her sisters, and dazzles the judges with her Meryl Streep-level acting. After the audition, she finds Futaro half asleep after waiting for her. He then leads her to a nearby playground where the others wait. Ichika braces for her sister's scolding, but instead they're all playing with fireworks Yotsuba and Raiha brought earlier. Futaro thanks Yotsuba for the fireworks and for watching Raiha. Even Nino, while acting prickly, thanks Futaro and admits he did well. With all five sisters together, they finally enjoy the fireworks. Ichika apologizes for messing up their plan, but Itsuki tells her it's unnecessary. They remember their mother's promise to always support each other, in happiness, anger, or need, and enjoy the night. Futaro feels his work is done when seeing the sisters are together, and Raiha is asleep, and now he can finally rest. But Ichika lets him rest his head on her lap, and he closes his eyes, knowing he's done everything he can to protect them. Then autumn arrives, and Ichika waits for Futaro on the way to school. Ichika tells him how she has finally told her sisters about her job, and when everyone reacts with surprise and excitement, she feels relieved that she doesn't have to lie anymore. Later in class, the teacher announces that midterm exams are approaching, warning that anyone scoring below 30 will fail. Futaro starts with Itsuki, and knowing that she studies during lunch, he approaches her desk. He encourages her to stop studying alone and join him and the others. Itsuki teases him, pretending she needs help, and Futaro feels victorious until she walks straight to the teacher instead, refusing to ask for his help. Next, he searches for Nino, and he asks if she is ready for the exams. She ignores him and even lies, telling her friends he is stalking her. But then Futaro calls after her, reminding her of how happy she was at the summer festival, and promises they can be happy again, and she will be satisfied. The other girls overhear and misunderstand what happened that summer, while Nino blushes and slaps him. At the library, his cheek still stings from her hand, and Ichika laughs, but Futaro brushes it off, warning the girls that exams are serious. Yotsuba doesn't focus at all, and she asks if he noticed her new headband, but Futaro ignores her comment and scolds her for too many mistakes. Ichika chuckles again, but he reminds her that Yotsuba is trying, so they all must try too, as the exam is only a week away. To his surprise, Miku studies English, her weakest subject. She says she wants to work harder this time, and her determination motivates Yotsuba and Ichika as well. By sunset, the girls leave the library. Futaro stays behind, thinking of more ways to help them study. Ichika suddenly blows in his ear, startling him. She tells him to relax, saying that failing won't mean expulsion, and maybe treating them will lift their spirits. They decide to treat themselves to parfaits, though Futaro chooses to head home. Itsuki stops him, scolding him for leaving her sisters alone. She hands him her phone, and to his shock, it's the girl's father. The old man coldly asks about Futaro's progress, and Futaro pretends he's in the middle of a tutoring session, hoping to impress him. The father is mildly impressed, but warns him that if one of his daughters fails midterms, Futaro will get the boot. Futaro tries to beg, but the call ends. Desperation starts eating him up, and knowing Itsuki studies alone, he forcefully tries to make her join him. This sparks an argument, and she reminds him about how he rejected tutoring her when they first met, only caring now because of the money. Out of frustration, the idiot snaps at her, telling her to shut her mouth and listen. He quickly realizes his mistake, but it's too late, as he watches Itsuki tell him she's lost respect for him and will never study under him. Instead of apologizing, Futaro doubles down, saying he'd rather do a backflip off a bridge than teach her. Later, while playing Monopoly, Miku notices his desperation and asks what happened. But before he can confess about what their father told him, Nino joins in, knowing she'd sabotage him if she knew the truth. Futaro keeps silent. Soon after, Itsuki returns. Nino asks her to join the game, but she chooses to study alone instead. Irritated, Nino pushes Futaro toward the door, telling him to go home, but Ichika saves him with a lie, stating that he'll be staying the night to help them study. Futaro ends up taking a bath in the largest tub he's ever seen, and suddenly, outside, Itsuki approaches him, asking what their father told him. Desperate, he reveals the truth of him being threatened to lose his job, and begs her to study under him, only for Itsuki to reveal herself as Nino, who gleefully declares she now wants him fired more than ever. Meanwhile, the other sisters gossip about Futaro taking so long in the bath. Ichika urges Miku to make a move and riz him up, but Miku refuses to admit her feelings. When Futaro returns, he tries to coax Nino into studying, but after the bathroom incident, it's hopeless. Suddenly, Ichika pretends to ask a question. When Futaro approaches, she pushes Miku onto him, teasing that she needs him to teach her biology and perform reproduction. Trying to look cool in front of Nino, Futaro says the girls can ask him anything. Seeing her chance, Miku asks what kind of girl he likes. The others lean in, curious, and Futaro says he'll answer if they finish a page of their assignments. Motivated, they complete it, and Futaro reveals his list. First, he likes cheerful girls. Second, he likes girls who can cook. And at the top, he likes girls who love their brothers. The others are horrified to realize he loves his own sister Raiha, while Miku is devastated to know his type is the opposite of her. But Futaro clarifies that he has no interest in dating anyway. Just then, Ichika urges him to praise Miku for her effort, and when he pats her head, both of them blush. Futaro insists his heart isn't racing, so Ichika orders Yotsuba to check. Futaro refuses, so Yotsuba chases him around until she presses her ear to his chest, and to everyone's surprise, his heart is pounding. Just then, Itsuki storms in, annoyed at their noise, and asks Miku for her headphones so she can study in peace. Still unable to apologize, Futaro asks Itsuki if he can trust her to pass, but she brushes him off. Sensing the tension, Ichika drags Futaro outside for a break, and she tells him that she thinks he and Itsuki are alike, that they are both stubborn, always fighting, but usually like friends. But she's concerned with how this time the fight feels serious, and she worries Itsuki is hurting alone. She promises to help Futaro however she can, but asks him to try his best too. Futaro praises her attitude as the eldest sister and pats her head. When she looks confused, he reminds her she told him earlier to do that, and Itsuka turns away, feeling flustered. That night, Miku offers Futaro her room, while she shares with Ichika. But later, half asleep, she forgets and climbs back into her own bed, right next to him. And the next morning, Futaro wakes in a panic, seeing that Miku is asleep beside him. Meanwhile, the others sit outside eating breakfast, wondering where Miku has gone after disappearing from Ichika's room. Nino grows irritated knowing that Futaro actually stayed the night, and while she warns Itsuki not to study with him, Ichika encourages Itsuki to be more honest with herself. Itsuki admits she fought with Futaro over trivial things and believes she can't be like Ichika or Miku. Ichika has an idea, so she styles Itsuki's hair to look like Miku's and tells her to trick Futaro. Nino joins in and makes Itsuki mimic Miku's demeanor perfectly. Meanwhile, Futaro is still stuck with the real Miku, unaware of her identity, until he notices the pajamas she's wearing and realizes who she is. Trying to escape, he steps outside, only to be shocked when he sees another Miku. He's confused for a second, but quickly calls out Itsuki after recognizing her pajamas. Deep down, Itsuki wants to ask Futaro for help with the midterms, but Futaro brushes her off and goes back inside to avoid being seen with Miku, annoying Itsuki. Later, they search the library for Miku. Unaware she's actually in her room, Futaro keeps thinking about his fight with Itsuki and her saying she doesn't want him as her tutor. Curious, he asks Yotsuba what she would do if one of her sisters had to repeat a year. To his surprise, she confidently says she would redo the year alongside her sister. Inspired by her words, Futaro realizes what he must do. Ichika notices this shift, and cleverly pretends she needs him to return to the apartment to fetch something, giving him the chance to talk to Itsuki alone. Outside the apartment, he runs into Miku, who has just woken up, and tells her to join the others in the library. Before leaving, she asks if he remembers their night together, and he lies, saying he slept in the living room to avoid more misunderstanding. She believes him, and Futaro heads inside. He sees Itsuki asleep after hours of studying, and when Futaro wakes her, he purposefully calls her Miku because she's still wearing a headset. Despite her attempts to correct him, Futaro continues pretending, saying he will teach her. Wanting to be honest with herself, Itsuki blushes and goes along with the misunderstanding. The two study together, and Futaro during it occasionally compliments her efforts, which makes her happy. Through this session, they silently forgive each other. Days later, after all their hard work, Futaro dreams that the sisters score perfectly on their tests and celebrate not getting fired. But he wakes up to reality, realizing it was only a dream. And when he checks the clock, he sees that they're late and panics. They all rush to school, but while Yotsuba speeds ahead on her own, and by the time they arrive, everyone except Yotsuba is late and gets blocked at the entrance by a strict teacher. Thinking fast, Futaro comes up with a plan, and since Yotsuba already made it inside, Each sister pretends to be Yotsuba to trick the teacher. One by one, they get past him by saying they had to fetch something outside and that they're Yotsuba. However, when Futaro and his dumb head try the same trick, he gets caught immediately, since he looks nothing like her, and gets dragged to the teacher's office. Even so, before being taken away, he encourages the sisters to believe in themselves and all the studying they've done. Motivated by his words, the sisters head into the exam with determination, wanting to make Futaro proud. The test begins, and after weeks of hard lessons, they do their best to answer each question. For Itsuki, the pre-assure it's even greater, as she knows their father threatened to fire Futaro if they fail, and she's determined to succeed for his sake. Days later, they gather to reveal their results. Itsuki hesitates out of embarrassment, but Futaro gently encourages her to share. One by one, the sisters reveal their scores, and each of them manages to pass at least one subject, with Miku earning the highest grade of 68. But despite their partial success, Futaro realizes he has failed his goal of getting them to pass all subjects. He praises each sister anyway, telling them he's proud to be their tutor, even if only for a limited time. Confused by his words, Miku asks what he means, and at that moment their father calls through Itsuki's phone. He orders Futaro to report the results truthfully. But before revealing the results, Futaro requests that the sisters get a better tutor, insisting he believes in their potential. His decision shocks everyone, but before he can reveal the truth, Nino grabs the phone and boldly lies, claiming the sisters passed every subject thanks to Futaro's teaching. Convinced by her words, their father declares that Futaro will remain their tutor. After the call, Nino clarifies that she didn't technically lie since each sister did manage to pass at least one subject, and she firmly places her expectations on Futaro, telling him to help them improve even more. Miku feels relieved that Futaro will stay with them, and Yotsuba eagerly suggests reviewing their test mistakes right away. While Futaro would love to dive back into studying, he decides to give them a break and admits he wants to try a parfait. The girls laugh, saying it doesn't suit him, but they agree to go anyway. On the way, Yotsuba casually asks about Futaro's own results, shocking everyone when they find out he scored perfect hundreds in every subject. Back home, Futaro is still in disbelief at how the sisters managed to fail every subject except one. At the dinner table, his father reassures Futaro that Itsuki and the others will change eventually, just like he did when he went from being a delinquent to a study freak. Futaro's father mentions that Futaro keeps a picture from his wilder days in his notebook. Curious, he takes the notebook from Futaro's pocket, and both he and Raiha see the photo. Raiha is stunned by how different her brother used to look, and their father explains that Futaro became obsessed with studying because of a girl he met in the past, and the memory makes Futaro think about her. The next day, in the kitchen, Miku tries her best to make croquettes. Although they turn out looking like rocks, she asks Yotsuba to try one, but Futaro grabs it first. To her surprise, Futaro says they taste great, but Yotsuba bluntly tells her they're terrible. Determined, Miku declares that she'll keep cooking until she gets them perfect. But after countless failed attempts, Futaro ends up sick from eating too many and lies on the floor while Miku rushes to get him medicine. Just then, Itsuki and Nino arrive. Nino mocks Futaro, saying he looks like a dead rat lying there. As they prepare to leave, Futaro orders Yotsuba to stop them and convince them to study, even if she has to lie. Not knowing what to say, Yotsuba tells them that Futaro is dying and needs their care. The sisters start walking away, not caring about it. But when they glance back and see Futaro coughing up blood, which is secretly ketchup, they get worried. Itsuki decides to stay and watch over him. And to get Nino involved, Yotsuba suggests she make Futaro some porridge, and surprisingly, Nino agrees. Itsuki then asks Yotsuba what she should do to help Futaro feel better. Yotsuba recalls how their mother used to comfort them and suggests that Itsuki hold Futaro's hand. Itsuki hesitates, staring at his hand for a while, but ultimately refuses. Yotsuba switches tactics and invites Itsuki to study with them instead, saying it'll help everyone grow closer. Seeing Yotsuba's bright smile, Itsuki agrees to think about it. Moments later, Nino brings the porridge but slips on the ketchup bottle and spills it. Futaro, having rarely seen such perfect grains of rice in his life due to growing up poor, silently accepts his fate as the hot porridge lands on his face. He screams in pain, thrashing around, and Nino apologizes profusely. But when the sisters notice how easily he's moving, they realize he isn't actually sick and leave in frustration. Left alone with Yotsuba, Futaro sighs for having to start from zero. But Yotsuba tells him he's wrong, as his presence has already begun to change things. Even Nino, who would have kicked him out before, didn't this time. Futaro credits Yotsuba as the one who sparked this change. Since she's always been willing to study from the start, Yotsuba moves closer, gently pressing her forehead against his, and admits that the reason she studies with him is because she likes him. Futaro's heart skips a beat, but then Yotsuba says she's only joking, leaving him flustered. The next day, Yotsuba hurries to Futaro's tutoring session. When she arrives, Futaro scares her by wearing a horror mask and a blonde wig, and they get scolded for being noisy in the library. He explains that he was forced to join the school camp's courage test committee without his consent, so he plans to make the test extra terrifying as revenge. Yotsuba threatens to complain to his class, but Futaro tells her not to bother since he doesn't care about the camp anyway. Hoping to change his mind, Yotsuba shares a camp legend that any pair who dances around the campfire together will spend their lives together. But even after hearing that, Futaro remains indifferent, calling it silly. Miku agrees aloud but secretly finds the legend romantic. Just then, Ichika appears, and since she can't join the study session, she asks Futaro to exchange emails so she can coordinate better next time. While doing this, Futaro notices how Yotsuba juggles multiple tasks at once whenever she's asked, and he suspects she uses her helpfulness as a way to avoid studying. After Ichika leaves, she messages Futaro, demanding that he collect everyone else's emails too, or she'll share a photo of him sleeping on her lap. Not wanting that to happen, he asks the sisters, and Miku eagerly gives him her email without hesitation, wanting him to have it. Itsuki refuses at first, but when Futaro offers Raiha's email in exchange, she agrees. For Nino, he claims the group will chat and gossip without her if she refuses, which makes her give in as well. She writes her email in his handbook, leaving only Yotsuba. When Futaro asks Yotsuba, she shows him her email, but before he can read it, she gets a call from the basketball team captain asking to meet. She lies, saying she has an emergency, but Futaro follows her. He leaves his handbook with Nino, who writes her email inside. Futaro spots Yotsuba talking with the basketball team, who invite her to join after seeing her skills. Expecting her to agree, Futaro is shocked when Yotsuba declines, saying she already has someone who believes in her and wants to fight for that trust. Later, back home, Futaro realizes he still doesn't have Nino's email since his handbook is with her. The next morning, he sneaks into her room while she's asleep to retrieve it, causing her to scream when she wakes up and accuses him of being a creep. When he asks for his handbook back, Nino grows suspicious, thinking he's hiding something. Ichika then appears and gives Nino an ear-piercing kit she's been wanting. Nino drags Futaro to her room and asks him to pierce her ears. Having done it before, Futaro warns her about the pain, but still tries to get his handbook back while distracting her. Annoyed, Nino kicks him, causing the handbook to drop, revealing a photo of Futaro from his delinquent days. Nino is surprised and tells Futaro that his old self is exactly her type, and feeling embarrassed, Futaro lies, claiming it's a picture of a relative. Amused, Nino decides to show him her own old photo with her sisters, but Futaro shows no interest, so she heads downstairs to show the others instead. Futaro breathes a sigh of relief that Nino didn't notice the other side of the photo, where a younger Futaro is standing with a girl he once loved, being one of the 5 sisters. At school, Yotsuba excitedly shows Futaro a pamphlet for the upcoming camping trip, brimming with enthusiasm about the school camp. She can't wait for the legendary campfire, where couples often end up forming. Futaro dismisses the idea of dating as pointless, which confuses Miku, and she asks why people even date in the first place. Just then, Ichika joins the conversation, explaining that people want to date because they feel so strongly about someone that they want to be with them. Futaro urges everyone to start the study session, but Yotsuba bolts immediately to avoid it. Ichika then tells Miku she has a photo shoot and needs her help. She hands Miku a wig, and Ichika asks her to step in and do the usual. Miku goes to the bathroom, and when she steps out, Futaro is stunned to see that she has transformed herself into Ichika's perfect lookalike. Later in class, a student approaches Ichika, not realizing it's Miku in disguise, and nervously confesses his feelings. He asks her to dance with him at the campfire. Miku, caught off guard, asks why, and he straightforwardly tells her that he likes her. This makes Miku silently wonder just how many guys are interested in Ichika. Miku tells him she'll think about it, but he presses her for an immediate answer. As he studies her face, suspicion creeps in, and he asks if she's really Ichika. Before Miku can respond, Futaro steps in, claiming he's been looking for Ichika and that her sisters need her. Annoyed, the boy confronts Futaro for interrupting, demanding to know his relationship with Ichika. Thinking quickly, Miku declares that she has already promised to dance at the campfire with Futaro, and the dude is shocked, insisting that Futaro isn't good enough for her. But Miku confidently says that Futaro is actually cool and reliable. The boy accuses them of dating, and Miku boldly confirms it, pulling Futaro along to leave. Unconvinced, the boy challenges them to prove it by holding hands. Futaro hesitates, but before he can respond, Miku grabs his hand tightly, stunning him. Embarrassed and defeated, the boy finally walks away. Before leaving, Miku asks the dude why he confessed in the first place, and he explains that he just wanted the person he likes all to himself. Hearing this, Miku begins to understand why people fall in love and choose to date. Later, Miku changes back to her normal self and rejoins her sisters. Together, they take Futaro shopping for the school camp. While most of the sisters pick quirky outfits, Nino chooses a stylish set of clothes that suits him perfectly. Futaro hesitates, asking if it's okay for them to buy him clothes, but they insist, as they refuse to let him show up looking sloppy. Yotsuba jokingly says it feels like they're on a date, but Itsuki quickly shuts down the idea, claiming they're just helping Futaro look more presentable. Before leaving, Yotsuba encourages Futaro to look at the pamphlet again, saying they should all make great memories together. Futaro then notices several missed calls from his father, who informs him that Raiha is sick. He rushes home and devotes himself to caring for her. Even so, Raiha urges him to go on the camping trip and make precious memories with everyone. However, on the morning of departure, Futaro doesn't show up at the school bus. Back home, Futaro stays with Raiha, fully intending to skip the trip. When his father returns and learns what's happening, he reassures Futaro that he can still join the camp, reminding him it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Suddenly, Raiha wakes up feeling completely better, and even asks for food, shocking both of them. Just then, Itsuki unexpectedly appears at the house and drags Futaro outside, where he finds all the sisters waiting for him. They urge him to come along and he happily agrees. However, due to a blizzard, their bus gets stuck, forcing them to stay overnight at a nearby resort. While unpacking, Futaro finds a note and a lucky charm from Raiha, wishing him good luck on the trip, which lifts his spirits. Later, Ichika privately asks Miku if she's really okay letting her dance with Futaro at the campfire. Although conflicted, Miku says it's fine if it's Ichika. That evening, they sit down for a luxurious 5-star dinner, leaving Futaro amazed by the food. While discussing the camping schedule, he flawlessly explains the entire plan, surprising the sisters with how well prepared he is. Ichika then suggests an open-air bath, but they quickly realize it's mixed and refuse to join Futaro, not wanting to see a barracuda. The girls bathe together instead, where Nino brings up that since they'll all be sleeping in the same room, someone will inevitably have to sleep next to Futaro. After a debate over who should do it, they come up with a plan that all 5 of them will style their hair the same way, so Futaro won't know who is who, keeping him guessing. The next morning, Ichika wakes up and is shocked to find Futaro sleeping right beside her. Looking around, she realizes everyone must have shifted positions in their sleep. Then, watching Futaro's peaceful expression stirs unexpected feelings in her, and remembering everything he's done for her, she feels tempted to kiss him. Just as she leans in, Itsuki suddenly walks in and quickly shuts the door, not realizing which sister she just saw almost kissing Futaro. Later, their teachers suddenly find them in that resort and explain that because of the blizzard, the school decided to stay in the same resort. This surprises Futaro, who wonders how they managed to avoid running into their classmates until now. Hours later, they finally arrive at the camp, and the sisters immediately join the others to help with cooking. While watching the rice simmering, Mogata, the ever-curious classmate, asks Futaro for advice on how to get a girlfriend. Before Futaro can reply, Yotsuba shows up carrying boxes and asks for his help. He heads over to his sister, but casually tells Maeda to invite a girl during the upcoming test of courage, as it might give him a chance to get closer to someone. Later that night, Maya manages to bring a girl along, but to his annoyance, the girl isn't scared at all. Before anything else happens, Futaro and Yotsuba suddenly jump out and scare them, causing both Maya and the girl to scream and run away. Yotsuba laughs happily and admits she's glad Futaro came on the trip, telling him she hopes he leaves the camp without any regrets. Soon after, the next group approaches, and they prepare to scare them as well, only to discover it's Ichika and Miku, who neither show no fear. While Ichika teases Futaro about his ridiculous blonde wig, Miku stays silent, lost in thought. Futaro warns her to follow the marked signs to avoid a dangerous cliff, and she quietly nods before leaving. Later, Miku confides in Ichika, admitting she feels strange whenever Futaro is around. Curious, she asks Ichika what she thinks about him. Realizing Miku's feelings, Ichika gently suggests that Miku take her spot during the upcoming dance, encouraging her not to regret missing the opportunity. Meanwhile, Itsuki is paired with Nino for the test of courage, and Futaro pops up to scare them, causing both to scream and run. However, Futaro notices they've taken the wrong path and are heading dangerously close to the cliff. In the chaos, Itsuki gets separated and runs off, leaving Nino alone in the darkness. While searching for her, Nino's phone battery dies, leaving her without a flashlight. Scared and disoriented, Nino stumbles and falls to the ground. Just then, Futaro shows up to help her. But because of his blonde wig, she mistakes him for someone else, the guy she saw in Futaro's notebook, Kintaro. When he tries to help her up, her skirt gets caught on a branch and rips slightly. But to his surprise, Nino doesn't get angry. Realizing she hasn't recognized him, Futaro decides to keep up the act, pretending to be Kintaro. Nino, intrigued, asks him about himself. So Futaro improvises, trying to sound rebellious to push her away, but it only makes her more interested. He switches tactics and portrays himself as intelligent, but she claims she likes smart people too, but he suspects she's bluffing, knowing how she hates the real him. She admits she dislikes people who are arrogant about their grades and indirectly criticizes Futaro, not realizing she's speaking to him. Noticing a scrape on Kintaro's cheek, Nino gently places a bandage on it, explaining she's used to taking care of her sister's injuries. Suddenly, a frightening noise echoes through the woods, and Futaro tries to reassure her with his lucky charm, claiming it protects them. But when the sound grows closer, he panics and bolts, leaving Nino behind. As they wander through the forest, Nino thinks she spots the path back to camp and rushes toward it, only to find herself near a steep, dangerous slope. Just as she's about to slip, Futaro grabs her in time, saving her from falling. Both end up tumbling onto the ground together, and for a brief moment, they find themselves close enough to feel each other's breath. Shaken by fear, Nino admits she can't move and asks him to hold her hand. Instead, Futaro gives her his lucky charm, telling her it will protect her and grant her wishes. Touched, Nino shyly asks Kintaro to dance with her at the campfire on the last night, saying she'll be waiting for him. Before he can respond, the frightening noise returns, but it turns out to be Itsuki. Relieved, Nino hugs her sister tightly. When Itsuki arrives and sees Nino safe, she feels surprised that Nino handled the situation alone. Nino excitedly turns to introduce Kintaro to them, but he has already disappeared, and she smiles softly while holding the lucky charm close, secretly hoping to meet him again. Back at camp, Nino walks around happily, still thinking about the night's events. When Futaro asks her why she looks so cheerful, she refuses to tell him anything. But realizing he can't possibly dance with both her and Ichika, Futaro decides to come clean with Nino, but when he goes to find her, she's already gone. He runs into Ichika and Miku instead. Ichika, sensing the tension, walks away to give Miku her chance, but rather than saying something sweet, Futaro asks Miku about Nino, which she's not happy about. Confused about why the sisters are angry with him, Futaro wonders what he's done wrong, until Itsuki bluntly tells him it's because he's been acting like a coward. Later he helps Yotsuba carry heavy logs for the campfire, explaining that it's his way of returning the favor for her help during the test of courage. However, Yotsuba points out that he left her alone to handle everything when he ran after Nino, making him realize just how much he's upset her as well. While grabbing another log, Ichika appears and teases him for being weak. To stop her from helping, Futaro deliberately acts overly polite and cheerful, which unsettles Ichika since it sounds nothing like him. Concerned, she asks him to be honest about what's bothering him. Futaro admits he doesn't want anyone to hate him, so Ichika decides to help him practice, pretending to act like Nino and Itsuki while he tries to respond naturally. However, his awkward attempts give her secondhand embarrassment, so she advises him to simply be himself, and Futaro feels relieved, appreciating Ichika's maturity. Then only one log remains, and Futaro, still conflicted about the dance, asks Ichika to cancel their dance, leaving her to deal with Maeda. When he looks at her, he's shocked to see tears in her eyes. Before he can say anything, a group arrives to collect the last log, but no one notices that Futaro is secretly helping Ichika hide her tears. Wanting to comfort her, Futaro gently places his jacket over her shoulders, flustering her. But before they can leave, the door closes, and they realize they've been locked inside. At first they laugh it off, but the reality quickly sinks in that they're trapped. Futaro suggests breaking down the door, but Ichika quickly stops him when she notices a burglar detector attached to it, and warns him that triggering it could ruin the entire camping trip. Deep down, however, what truly worries her is how Miku would react if she found out they were locked in a room together. Futaro then suggests lifting her onto his shoulders so she can try to disable the detector. Ichika hesitates at first, but eventually gives in, feeling flustered when she notices how broad his shoulders are. As she gets on, Futaro can't help but notice how close they are, and Ichika tells him to stay focused. When she checks the device, they realize a key is required to disarm it. Then, while Futaro tries to start a fire to keep them warm, Ichika keeps voicing her concerns, but he barely listens. Meanwhile, outside, the other girls realize Futaro and Ichika haven't returned since they went to collect firewood. Miku, feeling conflicted, begins to wonder what Ichika might be doing with him and decides to search for them. Back in the room, Futaro continues ignoring Ichika's complaints as he focuses on creating fire. Suddenly, Ichika tells him she plans to quit school, which finally grabs his attention, and she's relieved to see him listening. Ichika explains that because of her movie role, she's been receiving more acting offers, and like other actors, plans to take a break from school. And since she struggles with studying, she's even considering leaving school entirely. To her surprise, Futaro tells her he's happy she found something she's passionate about, and even admits he's envious that she has options in life. At that moment, he successfully creates fire, shocking Ichika. They sit by the small flame to warm up, and Ichika jokingly cancels the planned group campfire dance, but asks Futaro for a private dance right there. She then asks about the campfire legend, and Futaro explains that dancing together around a campfire is said to make two people destined to be together forever. Hearing this, Ichika suddenly regrets persuading Miku to let her dance with Futaro later, realizing how selfish and hurtful that request was. Just then, a log unexpectedly falls toward Ichika, but Futaro quickly pulls her out of harm's way. Startled, she looks at him, feeling a rush of emotion she can't ignore. The falling log sets off a loud noise, triggering the burglar alarm. A voice warns them to retrieve the key immediately, or the police will be alerted. Suddenly, the sprinklers activate, soaking both of them as panic sets in. At that moment, Miku and Itsuki arrive with the key, demanding an explanation for why Futaro and Ichika were alone together. After they're freed, the teacher scolds them, and both Miku and Itsuki refuse to believe Futaro's innocent explanation. The next day, Ichika catches a cold from being drenched, and while Itsuki scolds her for being reckless, Ichika says she needs to face Futaro directly. This makes Itsuki realize that the girl at the resort she saw with Futaro was Ichika, and she's surprised that her sister has fallen for him. Ichika blushes, but admits that Futaro is thoughtful, reliable, and surprisingly cool. Meanwhile, Futaro rests in his room when Yotsuba bursts in and drags him outside to go skiing. Since Futaro can't ski, Yotsuba insists on teaching him, even offering to hold his hand. When Futaro asks about the others, she explains that Nino and Miku are already skiing, while Itsuki is stuck taking care of sick Ichika. Just then, Miku shows up, and Futaro doesn't immediately recognize her. He gets close to her face, flustering her so much that she loses balance and falls. He offers to help her up, but embarrassed, Miku gets up by herself. Then, while Futaro practices skiing, Ichika appears despite still recovering from her cold. When Futaro asks about Ichika explains that Ichika is skiing alone, likely avoiding him. Wanting to have some fun, Ichika suggests playing a game of tag, making Yotsuba the chaser. As Yotsuba counts the seconds, the girls ski off quickly while Futaro struggles to keep up. He quietly asks Ichika if she told anyone about what happened the night before, especially about her plan to quit school, and she reassures him she hasn't. Suddenly, Futaro realizes he doesn't know how to stop, and ends up crashing into a tree. A crowd gathers around him, so he quickly gets up, embarrassed. As he rubs his head, his bandage comes loose, and Nino, who happens to be nearby, picks it up. Recognizing it, she mistakenly believes Futaro is actually Kintaro, the man she has feelings for. Panicked, Futaro immediately runs away, refusing to face Nino and reveal the truth. But he ends up bumping straight into Yotsuba, who chases him to tag him. Now caught between both Nino and Yotsuba, Futaro manages to slip away and hide inside a nearby igloo. But inside he discovers Miku, who has also been hiding there from Yotsuba. The cramped space causes them to sit close together, and Miku nervously asks him not to move too much. When Futaro tries to leave, she stops him, asking him to stay with her a little longer. They chat about Yotsuba's incredible stamina, and Miku suggests giving her a handicap to even out the game, but Futaro disagrees. He tells her that Yotsuba's athleticism is the result of her hard work and that it wouldn't be fair to downplay her efforts. Hearing this, Miku feels relieved, realizing that she shouldn't compare herself to her sisters and that it's okay to fight for Futaro in her own way. Overcome with excitement, she stands up suddenly and bumps her head against the roof, feeling the pain but smiling anyway, declaring that everything is fair in love. Afterward, Futaro leaves the igloo, and Miku pulls out her phone to call Ichika, asking her to meet and talk. Miku tells Ichika that since the legend says she needs to hold Futaro's hand, they should both hold one of his hands each. Just then, Futaro joins their phone conversation, and Miku blushes at how close he sits next to her. With Futaro listening, Ichika tells them that she's heading back, and asks them to look for Itsuki since she's alone, believing that she's feeling lonely. They start searching, beginning from the cafeteria, but during the search, Futaro starts feeling weak, realizing that he caught Raiha's illness, and that he was the reason Ichika also fell sick. Suddenly, Yotsuba jumps on Miku, proudly declaring that she tagged both of them, meaning only Itsuki remains missing. Futaro suspects that Itsuki got lost, and when they look at the map, they suspect she might have gone to the restricted area the teachers warned them about. Ichika tries to calm everyone, suggesting they search elsewhere before heading there, but Nino snaps out of frustration, insisting they have no time to waste with Itsuki's life potentially on the line. Futaro's condition worsens, but in his moment of weakness, he realizes where Itsuki must be. He orders the others to wait while he takes Ichika with him to fetch Itsuki. Together they ride a gondola to find her. While looking for her, Futaro suddenly says he sees Itsuki below, but when Ichika looks closely, she realizes he's pointing at a random guy. Then, without warning, Futaro removes Ichika's hoodie, revealing Itsuki disguised as Ichika, and that Futaro finally finds her. Hours earlier, Ichika had convinced Itsuki to experience Futaro from her perspective to prove he isn't like their father, and that he can be trusted, believing it will change how she saw him. Overcome with guilt, Itsuki starts crying, apologizing for the trouble and admitting she just had to make sure. Futaro comforts her, but suddenly collapses onto her shoulder, unconscious from his illness. Later, a teacher takes Futaro to his room, forbidding the girls from entering while he rests. As they walk away, Futaro calls Nino over and quietly tells her that his cousin Kintaro had to leave before the campfire. Nino misinterprets this as a rejection and walks off upset. That night during the campfire, Miku confronts Ichika about her feelings for Futaro. To Ichika's surprise, Miku confidently declares that, unlike before, she won't hold back anymore, and she's determined to win Futaro's heart, even if it means defeating her sisters. Without hesitation, Miku confesses that she likes Futaro, but moved by her determination, Ichika embraces her. Meanwhile, Itsuki finds Yotsuba in their room, holding Futaro's camping pamphlet and looking guilty. Yotsuba notices how many writings Futaro has on it, realizing how excited he was for the trip. When Itsuki looks inside, she sees that Futaro has carefully noted every meaningful moment, from their resort trip to Yotsuba teaching him to ski. Inspired, Yotsuba decides to sneak into Futaro's room to ask him directly. When the teacher watching Futaro gets called away, Itsuki also sneaks in, refusing to let Futaro be alone during the campfire. As she searches for the light switch, she turns it on, only to find that all 5 sisters had the same idea. They each admit they're there because they care about him. Itsuki steps forward first, telling Futaro softly that she doesn't know much about him yet, but hopes that when he wakes up, he'll share more of himself with them. Then, while the campfire is running, Futaro sleeps peacefully inside, his hand gently held by someone. Years later, Raiha gets a text from Futaro saying he forgot his wedding ring at home. She rushes to the venue carrying the ring and sees the wedding preparations, the dresses, the decorations, and the bride herself getting ready. When Raiha finds Futaro, he's fast asleep. She wants to scold him for forgetting the ring, but stops when she notices the lucky charm she gave him years ago still hanging from his neck. The wedding ceremony begins. As Futaro walks to the altar, he meets Mayada and his pregnant wife. Mayada happily explains that he married her because Futaro once encouraged him to dance and hold her hand at the campfire. He also recalls how Futaro, while bedridden during the campfire, held hands with his future wife. Then the bride walks in, and as she takes Futaro's hand, he remembers how that night, each of the sisters held his hand, each wishing to be the one by his side. In that moment, he finally wakes up from his fever. The sisters, overjoyed to see him healthy, celebrate loudly while Futaro is annoyed by the noise. Futaro chases them away and they all run off laughing, unaware that one of them will one day become his wife and is happily ever after. Comment down below 5 if you watch till the end, subscribe so you don't miss the next video.